ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Chapter 4, verse number 34 is where we stopped last time. We had the discussion and the confusion about the Guru Shloka. Yeah. Now I remember where I am. So chapter 4 is called Transcendental Knowledge. This chapter starts, and every time we start, and now we're just about to start the 5th chapter. We're almost close to the end of the 4th chapter. So we'll keep revising the previous ones. Yeah, that's when we start the 5th chapter. That'll be, I hope, next Tuesday. I don't know. So, what was I saying? Transcendental knowledge. By the end of the 3rd chapter, Krishna speaks about how lust is such a deadly enemy of the soul. How it keeps you away from Krishna. It brings about more ignorance. And in that way, what is the cure for lust? It's transcendental knowledge about Krishna. And that's how he starts the chapter 4, by glorifying this particular knowledge. He starts from 1 to 10, that is eternal knowledge. He shows that how this is not something new that I'm telling to Arjun. This is nothing new. This is the same thing that I've told the sun god Vivaswan millions of years back. And then I'm just repeating the same thing because it was lost. He was passing it down, but that disciplic succession was lost. The Bhagavad Gita was lost, so I called it, I sing it all over again for the benefit of humankind, so that everyone can follow the same principles, just like how Sun God and everyone followed it at that time. So from 1 to 10, he describes the history of the Gita and all these things, and how it was first given to Sun God and now he's giving it to Arjun. And what's the qualification for giving it to Arjun? Because he's not envious, because he's a devotee, because he's a friend of Krishna. That's why he's giving it to him. Right? So who's qualified to receive the Gita. Then he starts speaking about, then Arjun raises a question, saying that how is it possible, Sun God is so much more senior by birth. How is it possible that you gave it to him? So then he starts describing the nature of his activities, his pastimes. His appearance and disappearance are not like any human being, which is caught by karma and all these things. Krishna is not forced by destiny. He acts with his own supreme transcendental will. He comes when he wants to, whenever there's a religion, and then when he Means he just, when it's set, when the dharma is set again, re-established again, then that's when he leaves. He says that this janma and karma of mine are divine, they are divya. One who understands that can go back to the spiritual world simply by knowing that. So transcendental knowledge is so important. Then from 11 to 15, he says what is the right way of understanding it? Just the way the senior devotees have understood it, how Vivasvan has understood it, how King Janak has understood it. Yeah, and they still follow their same duties, not renounce. Then from 16 onwards, he says that how you can actively apply this transcendental knowledge by doing sacrifices. And what are the different types of sacrifice? Dravyamaya sacrifice, Tapomaya sacrifice, Ashtanga yoga is a type of sacrifice. There's so many, I think total 10? 10 sacrifices Krishna describes totally to Arjuna. There, like you can give in charity, or there is some pranayam where you're practicing very intense breathing, you're drilling your respiratory system. So many ways that you can, in the fire of yajna, we did that table, we did a whole tabular form where we had the person who is doing, who's the kind of person, means what inclination he has, whether he has inclination to be a brahmachari or a grihastha, then what is the type of sacrifice, or what are the ingredients that they have to sacrifice, and what will they obtain, what is the end result. So mental control sometimes was the end result, sometimes rise to heavenly planets was the result. So in the end, Krishna says that to be happy in this material world also, what you need to do is sacrifice. And if you don't do, then you're not going to be happy even in this world, even in this birth, what to speak of the next. And eventually, Krishna gives the highest form of sacrifice in 4.34. So what I'll do is I'll read the translation and then we'll proceed further. तद्विधि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्षन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनस्तत्र दर्शना. That's the verse. The translation is, the highest sacrifice is that you just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, a guru. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So by doing these previous 10 sacrifices that Krishna speaks about, you can get transcendental knowledge. You have access to it. It's not guaranteed, but there is some access. But he says, but instead of these sacrifices, you can directly get transcendental knowledge. How? By humbly serving a great soul and by submissively inquiring from the Guru. This is how you can directly get transcendental knowledge. Yeah. So this is a direct, it's like a treasure, you find it suddenly. That's the highest. These are the two ways to get that, key to direct transcendental knowledge. And then when the Guru gives you, when you follow these two-way pattern of humbly serving and submissively inquiring, and you have to please your Guru. When your Guru is pleased, then what happens? That is there, friend, from 4.35 onwards. And then Krishna is glorifying this part right up till 42. And he gives his final verdict also to Arjuna in the last verse. I checked this 42. Please repeat. Yajñātvā na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhūtānya shēshāni drakṣasyāt manyatho mayi. We'll read it together. Translation, start. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme. Or in other words, they are mine. So, drakshasi means that you will see. You will see, that drishti will come to you. What's drishti? It's vision. It's not just seeing. It's a vision that you will find, you will realize that you belong to God. He's saying Atmanyatho Mayi means Mayi, you are mine. Mayi means mine. You're in me, you are mine. Correct? He's saying, so what is the result of such knowledge? What will you yourself what is the vision that when you get, your material vision will be cured, and you'll get a spiritual vision that you belong to God. The first thing is, understand the difference? We've come down to this material world thinking that I want to be the controller, I want to be the independent enjoyer, I want to be independent. And the last snare of Maya is that she makes you think that you are God.
Lovely, this is like.
So then we realize that we are not God, but we are gods. We belong to Him. That's what He's saying. He's saying, in other words, that they are all mine. This is what you will realize. That you don't belong to this material world. You belong to the spiritual world. You belong to God. Okay? So then this is the first thing. And you will never fall again into illusion. Yeah.
Last time you repeated us that I am Krishna and Krishna is mine.
Yeah. That's even higher realization than this.
How do you say I am Krishna?
I am Krishna is the same thing. Yeah. But so there's something extra is Krishna is mine. You know, that's like a higher thing. That means you've already established love with the Lord.
Yeah.
Never fall again into illusion. Illusion, what's the Sanskrit word for illusion?
Maya?
Yeah. Moha, Maya. Yeah, we sometimes said together, Moha, Maya. Prabhupada writes the definition of Maya there. In the fourth line of the purport. Can you see? The sense of existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. Ma means not. Ya means this, not this. Means I'm not the soul, but I'm the body. Total ulta. Actually, we are not this body, but the soul. You know, when we used to have exams, they would write these 3-4 lines. And we used to get completely confused. Like, oh, which is the right one, you know, you have to tick the right one. The result of receiving knowledge, I'm reading from the purport, from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are part and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. The sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. Something that we have nothing to do with Krishna. The Krishna is only a great historical personality, and that absolute is impersonal Brahman. There are some people who think that God is just light, just some power. He cannot be a person. That is also an illusion or incomplete knowledge of Krishna. There is a shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam brahmeti parmatmeti bhagwan iti shabdete. It says there are 3 aspects to Bhagwan. There are 3 aspects to the Supreme Lord. One is Brahmeti, one is the Brahman. That is the supreme effulgence coming out of Lord's body. Paramatmeti is Paramatma, that he is residing in each person's heart. That is a higher realization of Bhagwan. Not only that he is all-pervading light, but also that he is a person and that he is in each person's heart. The highest is Bhagwan. That means that I can serve him. He is a person. He is Krishna. He has feelings. He understands. He knows me. So that is a much higher, and then when you understand that, you can understand all other aspects of Krishna. Right? So that is complete knowledge, and that is obtained when you accept a Guru, or when his Guru is satisfied with your humble menial service and submissive inquiries. Correct? So this it's a long thing. Basically what Prabhupada is trying to say, that because of Maya alone we think that we are in this temporary body. We think that these relatives are so important to us. They are important to us, but not more important than our relationship to Krishna. That is the most prime. In fact, if you don't have this realization, you really cannot do much for anyone else. Once you realize that that person is also connected to Krishna, it's just like, Prabhupada would often give this example, and we do it in Journey of Self-Discovery Day 1. This particular example. If you see a beggar on the road, you must have heard this before, and if you know that this child belongs to a millionaire, what is the best thing that, and just lost his memory right now, and the child is lost right now, doesn't know where to go. The child will be happy when he is connected to his parents once again, and his parents can give him everything. We would rather give some charity, some food, some shelter, some positive, talk, some encouragement. But what's the best welfare? That I connect that lost child to the Father again. So this is what Prabhupada is talking about. That lost soul, there's nothing better than any welfare that you can do for anyone rather than just connecting them to Krishna through some secret prasad or just something. Even if that person is reluctant, you can still connect them. Like Jayapataka Maharaj says that women have a deadly weapon called prasad. You can just mix it in food and that person is connected to Krishna and he doesn't even know about it. He or she, whatever. Okay. So in 35, Krishna says that you accept a Guru. When a Guru is pleased, these are the things that happen. That you'll never fall into Maya again. That's such an amazing thing. You'll never fall into Maya again. That's such a, a soothing thing, a soothing thing to hear that, this is not going to happen all over again. This whole nightmare. And also that we are part of the Supreme Lord. So can we go to 36?
Sorry, but you've given us that. I don't know why I've written Baldev Vidyabhushan in brackets. Is there something connected to that?
Yeah, that thing that you've written on top, that I am Krishna and Krishna is mine, that is said by Baldev Vidyabhushan.
Okay.
36? अपि चेदसि पापेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः पापकृत्तमः सर्वं ज्ञानप्लवेनैव वृजिनं सन्तिरिष्यसि. All of us together. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the body of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. A lot of time when we kabhi hai wo sansara dava nalali. How do we sing that song? That this place is an ocean of misery. Sansara dava, no? No, that's a burning forest fire. That is also forest fire. Anyway, aa jayega baad mein. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, means if you are like the most sinful person, nothing can be done about you. But still, if that person gets this boat of transcendental knowledge, if he simply gets the mercy of this Guru, what will happen? That person will be able to cross over the ocean of material miseries. A lot of times, the devotee is always, how it's in an ocean. You cannot be peaceful in an ocean. Constantly the waves and the currents are tossing you and, beating you up. Right in the middle of the ocean if someone drops you. Right? And then if someone comes, there's a beautiful painting, I don't know if you've seen that, there's this devotee who's raising his hand and Vishnu is coming on a Garuda and, giving his hand to pick that devotee up. So it's such a beautiful sight. This is exactly what I could think of, when I first time read this thing. It's like, you will be picked up from this ocean of material miseries. It's like a boat. Transcendental knowledge is like that boat where you will be immediately picked up. All you have to do is then stay in the boat to get crossed over. A lot of time Prabhupada says, that bhakti is become so easy. I remember last time I was mentioning then that compared to the other yagyas which had to be followed in the other yugas, bhakti or chanting is so much made more, bhakti to obtain bhakti is made so much easier by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this Kali Yuga. The worst of time but the best of things are given. It's like full 110% discount. It's a complete discount. It's a throwaway that you take bhakti. Nityanand Prabhu, who was a great, it's actually Balram. And Balram was famous for his temper. So that's why he said, I'm not taking part in Mahabharata because I don't want to be, taking sides. It's just too much for my heart. Okay. So, and also when Balram's, who's kidnapped? Who's Anirudh? Anirudh is Krishna's grandson. And Krishna's grandson, Anirudh, he was very fond of Anirudh and Usha nahi hai. Kaun hai? Who is Duryodhan's daughter?
Chitra, no?
Yeah. Then he falls in love with her.
You can find it. 10th canto. This is it's very interesting. This girl, she was very fond of Krishna's grandson. And what happened is, he tried to kidnap her, and then he was caught by all the Kuru dynasty. 10th canto ka hai, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th.
Was it that through the picture her friend she picked him up actually?
That is Banasur's daughter, Usha. Yeah, that's where I got confused actually. No. Sorry. The 10th canto is very beautiful, There's so many stories of Krishna. It's just amazing. So when this boy, this grandson of Krishna, was kidnapped by Duryodhan and everyone else, and then when Balram got to know, he got furious. He said, how these people, what do they think they are, The Yadu dynasty, see, they're kidnapping, and it's just too much for him. So immediately he went with the entire army to get the grandson of Krishna back. So then when he went there, so then when he immediately reached there, and then everyone saw his anger. So then Duryodhan said, oh, you were just like, it's okay, we'll get them married, it's okay, and then everything was so nice, and even the daughter wanted to get married to this boy. It's not that she was not ready. Kshatriyas had this whole thing, that they would kidnap girls, even from Swayamvar. Just kidnap. Even Krishna, that was willingly done. Rukmini wanted to go, that's another question, but she was too shy, to tell everyone. So she called Krishna, please you come and kidnap me. So it was like a conspiracy. So here it was not a conspiracy. The boy was actually trying to kidnap Duryodhan's daughter. So when Balram came there, he sat down and they were trying to decide everything. At that time, Duryodhan and Shakuni, they made a very, very crude comment on the Yadus that, oh, look at your boys, like that. And Balram got so upset. He got up, he always carried this golden plough with him. And what he did is he went outside. He just dug this plough on the ground and he picked up the entire Hastinapur.
Yeah.
The entire Hastinapur. Yeah, and he started dragging that Hastinapur. Can you imagine? Just imagine the sight, picking up like a whole city and dragging it. Where was he taking it? He was taking it to Ganga to drown it. At that time, Ganga was much more, even now she's sometimes called Ganga Sagar because at places her banks are like huge, it looks like an ocean. So he said, today Hastinapur is down in the Ganges, you all are too proud about your things. So, and then they just fell to his feet. So this is Balram, who was so angry. And just with a drop of his hat, he was ready to drown one whole city with everyone in it. The palaces and just everyone who was not even fault, they're not even their fault, they were just, he was ready to drown. That same Balram came in Kali Yuga as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associate called as Nityanand Prabhu. If you go on top in Darshan, you will see next to Chaitanya, there's Gaur Nitai. Next to Radha Gopinathji, there's Gaur Nitai. On right side, if you see of the altar, that is Nityanand Prabhu. Without the peacock feather is Nityanand Prabhu. With the peacock feather is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this Nityanand Prabhu, he became so humble. He would beg. He would fall in the feet of the people and say, chant Hare Krishna. Just giving away so much. It's made so much more easier. Correct? So this whole process in Kali Yuga has become so easy. So Prabhupada says, in Kali Yuga it's like a lift. Everywhere else you have to climb like a 100-story building. In all the yugas, the whole process is like, compared to climbing a 100-story building. But in Kali Yuga, it's like you're in a lift. You just get in, just keep chanting Hare Krishna. Just don't get out. There'll be so many people coming in and getting out, and there'll be so many distractions, Like if you go in a mall, you want to buy some, you're set in your head that this is the thing I want to buy. But the minute the lift goes up and the doors open, you'll see, oh, so many things are there. Oh, I could have that. But just don't get out of the lift. Just stay in the lift. You'll reach right up to the spiritual world. When it opens in the spiritual world, then you get out. So in the usher in the lift is like the guru. He'll tell you, this floor is this floor is this. Okay? So this is the boat of transcendental knowledge, or the lift of transcendental knowledge, which will take you out of the ocean of miseries. That's the profit of the last sacrifice, of surrendering to a guru. Verse number 30, so what's the third thing? Out of ocean of miseries. 5.37. Yathaidamsi samidhognir
Yatedamsi samidhomni
bhasmasat kurute Arjuna
Bhasmasat kurute jana
Jnanagnihi sarva karmani
Jnanagni sarva karmani
Bhasmasat kurute tatha.
Bhasmasat kurute tatha.
So here take from the Guru. This is an analogy he is using, where TK is compared to fire, Agni. He is using that word Agni in the shloka. This is word Agni. Yathaidhamsi samigdhognir. He is saying, as a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjun, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. There's fire and there's firewood. So TK is like fire and firewood is the material reactions, both good as well as bad. How do we light up fire? Through firewood. And by the end of the thing, firewood is completely into ashes. Correct? So this firewood, our material reactions, is something which is keeping us in this ocean of miseries. Correct? So this transcendental knowledge, what will do? It will act like fire and burn all of that up into ashes. Means it's completely finished. There will be no existence of material activities, material reactions. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjun, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions of material activities. Now here I can remember, the story of Gajendra. Do you all know the story of Gajendra? It's there in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We're just waiting for this Mayapur temple to be ready. That's the headquarters of ISKCON. It's 4 hours from Kolkata. So there they're making this Vedic planetarium. Actually, according to the Vedic description, how this universe looks like, it's described there that right in the center, or the pole, or the axis at which all the planets are, revolving, is actually a mountain. It's called Jambudweep. It's an island. It's floating in the ocean. And that Jambudweep is in the center, and all the other planets, or the different lokas are there. So in this Jambudweep, there was this mountain called Trikuta. Trikuta means a mountain with 3 peaks. Trikut, 3 peaks. One peak was made of gold. Another peak was made of silver. This is there in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the third peak was made of copper. So Trikuta mountain. In this mountain, there was a lot of population of animals and everyone. And it's a beautiful heavenly planet. Extremely beautiful description is giving, there is, beautiful waterfalls. And even the stone was actually jewels. They would shine so much. So from far, this whole place would look so amazing, magnificent, with these glittering 3 peaks and this beautiful sand and this beautiful forest, beautiful flowers. Fragrance would be constantly there in the air. And over there were these different animals which were staying. So there was this particular herd of elephants, extremely strong. Prabhupada describes there in the purpose that in a fight between an elephant and lion, often the elephant wins, because he just slams the lion down. And so these elephants, and the king of this herd was called Gajendra. Gaja means elephant. Indra means king. Indra, actually we think that god of rain, but Indra actually is a name of a post. Just like Prime Minister means the prime or the chief of all different ministers out of all the states. So that's not a name of a person. So Indra it's a post. So Gaja Indra means the king of elephants, or the chief of all elephants. So this Gajendra, he was there and he was like a majestic king. He had his wives, he had his children, and he had his entire family. Wherever they'd go, he would be right, in front, and all the other elders of the family would be there walking, and he would protect. And whenever he would enter the waters, all the other animals would run away, except the deers and those very innocent animals, and the rabbits, they would stay. All other carnivore animals would immediately run away. So there's this whole beautiful description, that Gajendra is so proud. And he's entering the forest and he's entering these waters to just enjoy. The elephant is just enjoying the water. He doesn't take a bath or anything. And he's just enjoying the water when suddenly one crocodile catches his leg. And he screams in pain. Right? And then he's trying to take out his leg from the strong jaws of the crocodile. Now he's in water. That's not his territory. Correct? So an elephant in the land would have slammed the crocodile. Would have just crushed it, basically. But in the water, that's the crocodile's territory. So the crocodile was extremely powerful. Right? So then this whole tussle goes on. In Srimad Bhagavatam it's mentioned that this fight between the elephant, Gajendra, and the crocodile goes on for 1,000 years. Because the lifespan was huge. So he was pulling and pushing and pulling and pushing, and then the crocodile also was extremely strong. He was pushing him right inside the water. And by the time, they could see that now Gajendra is so tired, he's hungry, he's desperate. And all the relatives of Gajendra, they wanted to pull him out, but the other crocodiles are also there in water. They couldn't believe that their king was actually losing, because it was not his territory. And finally, a very amazing thing happened. Now this whole pastime is being narrated by Shukdev Goswami, the original speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, the son of Vyasdev. He's singing it to whom? Parikshit Maharaj, who's the grandson of Arjun. Yeah. So he's saying this story to Parikshit Maharaj, and he said that a very amazing thing happened, that this Gajendra was caught, and he realized that now there's absolutely no way out for me. He immediately starts singing prayers in eloquent Sanskrit to Lord Vishnu. It's really amazing. An elephant singing Sanskrit prayers. Meko nahi aata, being a human being. The elephant started singing eloquent prayers. And his prayers were so heartfelt, so sincere, that immediately Vishnu from his abode sat on his Garuda and immediately came down. When this Gajendra got this beautiful darshan of Vishnu, he was sitting on his Gajendra with this beautiful, sitting on Garuda with this beautiful four-hand form, the Srivatsa, that Kaustubh Mani, this blue beautiful gem on his chest, and this ornate golden neck, crown on his head, this beautiful lotus petals like eyes, this amazing jewelry and glittering yellow, it's like lightning yellow. It's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, that dhoti he was wearing, and then he comes down so gracefully and Garuda is flying, and he's so, nice, he's such merciful eyes he had, he was just looking at Gajendra. Immediately Gajendra forgot everything. From his trunk, he immediately picked up a lotus. Even in that pain, he could think of this prayers, he could think of this, he immediately picked up a lotus and he offered it to Vishnu. Vishnu, from his one hand, he accepted this lotus, and from another hand, he let out his chakra, which immediately cut the neck of the crocodile. Yeah? And that, with the touch of that divine touch of the chakra, the crocodile immediately grew to his original spiritual form. Yeah? And because Krishna also touched Gajendra when he was taking that lotus, so Gajendra also grew to his eternal spiritual form. So at that point, Parikshit told Sukdev Goswami that how is it possible? How is it possible that an elephant, elephant is supposed to be in mode of goodness, but his animals are basically, they don't have that consciousness. They don't have ABCD, ability to inquire. They don't have access to bliss, choices, determination. All these things are not there. Their extra dharma quotient in them is absent. They're just in the basic living. So how is it possible that someone like Gajendra, an elephant, can think such prayers? So at that point of time, Sukdev Goswami told him that actually Gajendra was a king. He was King Indradyumna in his previous birth. And that King Indradyumna would do deity worship. He would have deities at home and he would worship these deities. And this is the prayer that he would sing to the deities every single day till he was cursed to become he was cursed by a particular Muni to become an elephant. So what did that Muni basically do? He cut short whatever little material life he had, material propensities he had, and immediately made him an elephant. And that lifespan of elephant was definitely less than what it would be, as a king. And here he could immediately darshan of Vishnu, and he went back to the spiritual world. But why did I describe this whole thing? Because that prayers that he was saying every single day is like transcendental knowledge he had. And even though he did not know that it's going to act so beautifully in one day that he's going to directly get a darshan. Now how that darshan is going to happen is like, it's up to Krishna. It's his plan. But it acts. This is how transcendental knowledge acts. It pulls you out of the ocean of material miseries. It will cut short all your spiritual, all your material reactions, all that pendulum material reactions that will maybe take you millions of lifetimes more to cover or to get over with. But then this transcendental knowledge would immediately burn them up, just like it burns firewood to ashes. That's the purport of verse number 37. Go to 38. We have 20 minutes. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddhah kalinatmani vindati. Can you all read the translation?
In this world there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all existence. And one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time.
So he's saying that this knowledge, again, initially he was glorifying the transcendental knowledge, again he comes back to it in the end of almost at the end of the chapter. He's saying that in this world, in this material world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. It's pure, so when you take it, what happens to you? You get purified. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism. Means all the sacrifices, all the tantra, puja, yajna that you do, what is the fruit? Suppose if you have a small sapling in your house, you water it, you nurture it, you soil it every day, you put so much care goes if you want to grow a tree out of that tiny sapling. And what are you waiting for in the tree?
The fruit.
The fruit. So what is that fruit of all that yajna and the sacrifices, all the efforts that we take in this material world? What should be the fruit of it? Transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is a mature fruit of all mysticism. And one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Means it takes a little time. Aise nahi, one day you get up, you've done devotional service or chanting for so long, and then one day you get up and you're like Buddha, It's not that. It takes some time. That's what Krishna is saying. He's giving encouraging words for us. He's saying that due course of time. It takes some time. It burns, but even for fire to burn firewood to ashes, it takes some time. So here Krishna says that it's definite, but it takes some time. Like there's a difference between wisdom and information. Now, what we're getting is all the information now. And that this is transcendental knowledge. Okay, this is transcendental knowledge. But then we have to still realize it. We have to apply it. By application will come the realization. And then what you get, that experience, that's what we call, is wisdom. After gathering awareness, gathering all the knowledge, we know now we have to chant. Okay, now we are chanting. We know we have to chant very nicely, very attentively. That awareness is there. But then it takes some time to come to that pedestal. It takes some time to practice that properly. Right? Awareness is the first step. Right? And then we try to get there. The goal. The final goal is transcendental knowledge, that we realize. Like Prabhupada writes here, when we speak of transcendental knowledge, we do so in terms of spiritual understanding, he says. As such, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. What's the cause of bondage? Ignorance. Third line of the purport, you can see. Ignorance is the cause of our bondage, and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. This knowledge is a mature fruit of devotional service. And when one is situated in transcendental knowledge, he need not search for peace elsewhere, for he enjoys peace within himself. In other words, this knowledge and peace culminate in Krishna consciousness. This is the last word in Bhagavad Gita. Is that you have to wait. With patience you have to wait. When this fire starts burning in your heart, when you're trying to get it, when you're trying to assimilate, understand, what is this all about? We tell everyone, the chant and be happy. Once you come to the temple, there's absolutely no worries. But then you realize that there's so many things inside you. So many anarthas inside you. They have to be cleansed. So much to do. And when you see so many books, you get like, oh my God, we have to read all these books. But what is more important, the realization of it. When we sing the bhajans that the acharyas are singing, you really don't understand. Sometimes you don't relate to it also. I remember that song we were singing, Amar Jivan Sada Pape Brat. It's like, there's no trace of punya in my life. This is what that, acharya is saying. Definitely his life is not like that. But when I was singing that song, I was thinking, there must be some trace of punya somewhere. You get that thing in your head, that absolute humility is not, it's going to take time to come. Right? So just thinking like that, it takes some time. Sometimes you feel that, is it so important? Is it so necessary to think like that? But then you understand that what is the message behind it. When you make yourself so humble, Krishna is immediately attracted to you. It's like you understand that I have an empty pot, then something can be filled in it. When you understand that I know everything, that no one can do anything about it. So that's why Prabhupada writes here, it's very important to understand that transcendental knowledge is our goal. And what does it do? It burns all our material miseries, it burns our ignorance. And it's the fruit of all mysticism. Means any sacrifice that you do, any endeavor that you're doing in this world, the goal of that should be some realization. That's why when we do things, when we do some mistakes, without understanding what is, where I went wrong, or some introspection is very important, or how I can improve. Is this what Krishna expected of me? If no, then okay, how can I do it better? That's application of transcendental knowledge. And with realizations, you grow. Go higher on that elevator. One floor to the next floor. 39th verse is the third last verse in this chapter. Shraddhava labhate jnanam. Shraddhava labhate jnanam. Tatparaha samyatendriyaha. Tatparaha samyatendriyaha. Jnanam labdhva param shantim. Jnanam labdhva param shantim. Achirena digacchati. Achirena digacchati. Together. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So what is the qualification?
Faith.
A person has to be with Shraddha. There's one bhajan, I can't remember. He says that when Nityanand Prabhu, when he was selling, it's mentioned in that bhajan that he was literally selling the holy name. And when he was selling, he was asking some price for it. What was the price? Faith. Some Shraddha. So, it's there, no? There's a bhajan, no? Jana hai Shraddhavan. He says that those who are faithful can easily chant the holy names. Those who are unfaithful or they don't have faith in the holy name will not be able to chant. What's the meaning of faith? Hope. Or inwardly that you believe in the mercy, you believe in the power of this holy name. You know it will work for me. You know it is best. It is divine. It's good for me. So with this Shraddha, you'll be able to take holy name even better. Right? So here, what happens? Krishna is saying a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge means he's dedicated that I want to follow this in my life. I want to understand this in my life. And who makes some effort to subdue his senses. Now what is subduing senses? Basically no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling and no intoxication. These four things are basically subduing your senses. Is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. Right? So 4.38 in 39, Krishna says transcendental knowledge is so beautiful.
Faith and subdued sense.
There's some qualification for it. Yeah, or eligibility. Spelling's right? Some effort to subdue one's senses. Faithful man who is dedicated to TK, transcendental knowledge, and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So Prabhupada writes here, he says, one is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness, he can attain the highest perfection. You must have that faith, that strong faith. This faith is attained by discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Prabhupada is writing here, how can you get that faith?
By chanting.
By chanting. When you chant and you'll experience change in you. You will see it, that I'm improving. I'm getting purified. That experience is very individualistic, you can't really measure it or describe it. It's each to his own. And then Prabhupada says, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. Then he says, over and above, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. Your previous verse, Krishna was saying some time. Why will it take time? Because it takes these two things to do. Faith, some preliminary faith, and subduing senses. Subduing senses will take some time. Correct? Because we've lived an animal life for God knows how many millions of births. So it takes some time. That's why that time. And after doing this, once Prabhupada is saying, once you get this, then it's very quick, very easy. 40th verse. Agnyascha shraddadhanascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam loko asti na paro na sukham samshayatmanah. Now in this verse, what is he describing? He is saying for a faithful person, for a person who subdued his senses, who wants to understand transcendental knowledge, it's very quick. But if a person doesn't have such qualification, then what? So here, can we read the translation? Start. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So Prabhupada, Krishna somewhere else in, I think, 2nd chapter somewhere, he describes doubts as demons. How do these doubts come to our mind? Someone puts them?
Yeah. When
Your faith shakes.
When you're not convinced or when
Not
you're
convinced. That's doubt.
When you doubt, when you're not.
Doubt actually comes from our material attachments.
Yeah.
When we have too many material attachments, we can't see anything beyond our attachments. Like, remember there was this story of a mother. The child wanted to study further, but for that he has to go to school. But the mother doesn't want to leave the child. मैं तो बच्चे के बिना रह ही नहीं सकता. The father saying it's only a couple of hours, he'll be back home. नहीं, आज इतना बाहर जाएगा बाद में. So what is she doing? She is strangling her child in her love, in her attachment. When the child goes to school, it's for the better of the child. She's not understanding. So our material attachments, what does it do? It'll put doubts in our head. No, spiritual knowledge, no. You'll have to leave everything, that fear. I remember many people, सब छोड़ना पड़ेगा ना, खाना लहसुन, this that. But then what happens? You get higher taste here, of course, when you come and taste prasad. It'll be like the best food in the world. But still, unless you don't come out of that doubt and try with some preliminary faith, difficult to work. So here Krishna is warning. He's saying if you're ignorant, he's saying agyanaha. Agyanaha means one who's a fool, who has no knowledge in standard scriptures. He doesn't understand. Ignorant or a fool, same word. And a faithless person who doubt the revealed scriptures. This is like the exact opposite of the previous verse. In the previous verse, he says a faithful person who's subduing his senses and he has faith in the scriptures and transcendental knowledge. Here, there's an exactly opposite person. Who's he? He's ignorant. He's a fool. A person who doesn't believe in scripture, Prabhupada uses only one word for them. Fool.
Fool.
Actually, Krishna uses that word, fool. Agyan. Agnya. Agnya is a fool. A-J-N-A. Fool. And who? Ashraddha. Shraddha is a faithful person. Ashraddha is a unfaithful person. Ignorant and unfaithfulness, faithless. Ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures. What's the result for them? They fall down and also for happiness, the basic minimum that you have to do is some sacrifice according to whatever is approved by the Vedas. Even if you do, now in Vedas only you don't have faith, then you won't even do sacrifice. If you don't do these sacrifices, you won't even get happiness, nor in this birth, nor in the next. He's making that same point he made previously again. Right, so this is about people who are faithless. In the next verse he says, Yoga Sanyasta Karmanam Jnana Sanchinna Samshayam Atmavantam na karmani Nibhadnanti dhananjaya. Everyone together. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. Now here what Krishna is doing, he is summarizing the entire chapter. First the question of Arjun was, what is better?
Devotional service?
No, that is 5th chapter ka question, sorry. No, that is, he starts glorifying transcendental knowledge from 4.1 onwards. Yeah. So here, what was Arjun's predicament? He wanted to renounce work. Correct? So what does Krishna say here? One who's acting in devotional service, number 1. Number 2, he renounces action.
Of his fruits.
Yeah, he doesn't renounce action. He renounces the fruits of his actions. Good or bad, both. Number 3, whose doubts have been destroyed by whom? By transcendental knowledge. Doubts, ignorance because of lust, that's like the end of the 3rd chapter. Same thing. Is situated factually in the self. And then he is not bound by the reactions of work.
So no
That's
karma.
what Arjun was worried about. If you act on the platform of transcendental knowledge, or how Vedas want you to act, or how Krishna wants you to act, then you will not get any material reactions. You get only spiritual blessings. Isn't it? So this is what Krishna wants him to do. He says that don't have doubts, right? So 3 things that he's asking him to do. No space. What's that first thing? One who acts in number 2, renouncing fruits of action. Remember at this point, the reactions part, 16 to 24. There was a point when Krishna was mentioning that you don't have to renounce your actions. What you have to do is, your sense of proprietorship is what you need to renounce, what you need to give up. Not the object, but that attachment to that object, that it's mine to be exploited. That is what you need to give up. You have to understand that this object is given to me as my quota to take care by Krishna, by God. That's why right now it belongs to me. Can we take it along, pack it up, luggage? So we have to renounce the fruits of actions. And third thing is, how are doubts destroyed? Yeah. Even if there's a doubt which erupts in your mind, because that's quite natural, because we still have so many material attachments. So doubts might come in our mind, but before they eat us up, this transcendental knowledge has to strangle it, destroy it. Alright, TK? TK. Alright, TK. Is situated factually in the self, thus he is not bound by reactions of work. And these three things are followed. One is not bound. B-O-U-E.
Not bound by reactions of work means he doesn't get any good or bad karma. Does that mean that? That means that.
No material reactions. Means which will keep you again in this material existence. Not taking a birth again, death again, birth again, death again. Last verse. Tasmad sambhutam Hritstam jnanasinatmanah Chitvainam samshayam yogam Atishtothishta bharata. Together. Therefore the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharat, stand and fight. Now Bharat is, sometimes even that descendant of Bharat Maharaj is also called as Bharat. But this Bharat is someone else. It is not Ramchandra's brother. Bharat, someone else. Yeah? So the yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatan Yoga. Sanatan means eternal. That's the first part of the chapter. Krishna says there's nothing new. This is eternal. Now through this purport, we're going to revise the entire chapter. That's what Prabhupada does usually. In the last verse, he summarizes the entire chapter. So the yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatan Yoga, or eternal activities performed by the living entity. This yoga has two divisions of sacrificial actions. One is called sacrifice of one's material possessions, and the other is called knowledge of self, which is pure spiritual activity. So you have two options. One is that you want to keep your material possessions, you want to enjoy them. So what you have, whatever you get, little bit you sacrifice it. What happens with that? Still your activities are being purified. Eventually you have an access to transcendental knowledge, or you get this transcendental knowledge directly from a guru, become purified. With this knowledge, what will happen? All your material reactions will be burnt, good and bad both, and this gives you access to transcendental. This gives you access to directly the spiritual world. Yeah? So two things. One is that sacrifice of material possessions. One is a pure spiritual activity. Two options. If sacrifice of one's material possessions is not dovetailed for spiritual realization, then such sacrifice becomes material. That means giving just for the sake of some prestige. Is that spiritual?
No.
It happens all the time. All the time. Right? So then is that sacrifice approved by the Vedas?
No.
It's not for some spiritual realization. And if they do some sacrifice just for some mental control, is that spiritual?
No. Again, he'll get the other benefits. No.
Yeah, the other benefits like mystical potencies.
Other heavenly.
Or even for heavenly, some people do it for heavenly planets. Keeping that as goal. Or a better birth in a richer family or in a more affluent family. Sometimes people know these Vedic injunctions. ऐसे करने से ऐसे होता है. Some people do sacrifices for a good husband. Yeah. Is that spiritual or material?
Material.
Material. Still material. Even the gopis would do. There's this Katyayani Devi. They would do this sacrifice. They would fast. They would eat only khichdi for, I think, the whole of Kartik month. It's there. There's one Katyayani Vrat. You have to eat bland khichdi. Namak bhi nahi. Adrak mirchi to chhodi do. Not even namak. And that khichdi you eat every day and you get a good husband out of that. And whom would they pray for a husband?
Krishna.
They would tell the Devi, please make Krishna as our husband. This was his vrat. So is it material or spiritual?
Spiritual.
Because somehow it's connected to Krishna, it is spiritual. Bhairavi is confused. No. Yeah. So somehow you have to make it connected to Krishna. Otherwise it is material. Continuing. But one who performs such sacrifices with a spiritual objective or in devotional service makes a perfect sacrifice. When we come to spiritual activities, we find that these are also divided into two. Yeah, I'll draw a tree fatafata. More easier to remember. What's the first part? This yoga is called as Sanatan Yoga, or I'll call it TK. Two things. One, two types of sacrifices are there. One is sacrificing material possessions. I'll just write the name of the verse, 4.34. Remember what is 4.34? Approaching the Guru for direct transcendental knowledge. Humbly serving him, that's also a service. And submissively inquiring, that's also a type of sacrifice. So either pure spiritual activity or you're sacrificing your material possessions. Material possessions meaning everything, your mental ability, sometimes your, this drilling, your breathing, and all these are all material possessions that we have. We are sacrificing that. Material possessions could be done with two intentions. Material intention, one is called sacrifice of one's material possessions, other is called knowledge of self, which is pure spiritual activity. If sacrifice of one's material possession is not dovetailed for spiritual realization, then such sacrifice becomes material. The material goal? It's material.
But even though this material sacrifice may be done by a person in Krishna consciousness for a material purpose,
Like? Can you give me an
like
example?
suppose take Krishna consciousness are praying or doing a sacrifice for say my son.
The hidden agenda can be material.
Like that mode also becomes material.
Yeah, suppose if now for example I'll give you I remember there was this lady here, she's a devotee, a practicing devotee, and her daughter was not getting married. So she was there's sometimes some dosh, some this and that. She wanted to get her married, but there's sometimes some grah dosh, and then rishta would come. It's not that she was not pretty or anything, everything was fine, but somehow it wouldn't happen. So when she approached the astrologer told her that you have to worship a certain planet, certain graha, and then everything will be okay in 2-3 months time. So should she do it? Should she not do it? It's a material thing. She wants to get her daughter married. If she doesn't, what will happen? It's anxiety, no? It's like you're suffering, and you know that this is my medicine, right? But even to be on a normal platform to take that medicine, you require some painkiller. Is the painkiller bad?
No, it's helping you. It's
Helping you at least keep my calm. I'll be able to chant at least with that painkiller, or simply with that pain. Sometimes when you have excruciating headache, Can you chant?
No.
If you take a painkiller, you pop in a painkiller, then you can chant. Is that painkiller bad?
No.
So for her, this particular activity was like a painkiller because it was causing so much anxiety for her. The problem with us is that we only pop in painkillers, medical, because it's giving us immediate relief, and we forget the medicine. So this particular material activity that you're calling it material is not bad. What the problem is my attachment to those things.
Yeah.
Painkillers से लोग भी addicted हो जाते हैं. Sometimes in cancer patients, they don't want to take the medicine because the painkiller is giving them so much relief. Or sometimes the medicine itself is giving them, that's the case of allopathy, but what can you do, But this is what spiritual thing is about. You constantly chant. The goal of chanting is not, my material things will become alright, my material life will be better, my children will score 90% marks in their school. That's not our goal. Yeah. The goal is to take my child out of material existence. If that includes getting her married by doing this puja, then I'll do it. Because it's obstructing my final goal. So that will become an obstacle because I've lost the sight of my goal. So we told her, why are you thinking so much? Just do it. Of course, the girl is married and she has a kid also. And then now they're happy. They're happily practicing Krishna consciousness. So the thing is, you don't get attached to only superficial solutions. You understand what the goal is, and then you do the needful. If you think this tuition is important for my child, you put him there. So it's one who performs that sacrifice with spiritual objective, this part of the tree we are in, then what happens to him? That's a perfect sacrifice. Right, so this is perfect. What is this? Defect. Perfect is defect. Where am I? I lost it. Perfect. When we come to spiritual activities, we find that these are also divided into two. Now we come here. This is also divided into two. What are those two? Namely, understanding of one's own self or one's constitutional position and the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Means knowing the self and knowing the Absolute. There's one knowledge or there's one level where you reach and you understand, I'm not this body, I'm the spirit soul, I'm spiritual, I'm Satchidananda. And another goal for it could also be that you get to know about the Lord. We've not realized yet that I am the soul, not the body. Right. Sometimes I say it ulta. I've still not realized that I'm not this body, but I'm the soul. But I know who the Lord is. I know that He is transcendental. That is what this TK, Krishna doesn't speak about the Atma here. Atma is already spoke about in the second chapter. He is talking about Himself. And what is He saying? Janma karma cha me divyam. One who simply knows that I am transcendental, my activities are transcendental, everything that I do is transcendental, my disappearance is transcendental, my appearance is transcendental. That person will go back to the spiritual world. Means they directly attain the
Lord.
Yeah. So there are two things. One, you become liberated by simply knowing that I am the soul. I'm not this body, I'm the soul. Or you get to know about the Lord and then you are progressing towards a higher goal. Correct? One who follows the path of Bhagavad Gita, udhar hi hai na? One who follows the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is, can very easily understand that these two important divisions very easily understand these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. Now, if you see, once you get to know about this, do you automatically know this?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
If you know this, do you automatically know this?
No.
Not necessary.
Not necessary.
Not necessary. But these are two important divisions of the same spiritual goal. They're important. It's important for me to know that I am not this body and this soul. And it's more important for me to know the Supreme Lord. That's what Krishna is saying here, that you just know this, you just get this transcendental knowledge, everything will be revealed to you. Right? One who does not understand the instructions of the Gita is faithless. 8 minutes, I missed something, I think. What did I miss?
In the beginning of this.
I got it very difficult.
One who follows the
For him,
One who follows the path of Bhagavad Gita can very easily understand these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. For him, there is no difficulty in obtaining perfect knowledge of the self as part and parcel of the Lord. And such understanding is beneficial, for such a person can easily understand the transcendental activities of the Lord. In the beginning of this chapter, the transcendental activities of the Lord were discussed by the Supreme Lord Himself. He says, 4.7, he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya, why do I come down? For what objective? What is my agenda for coming down? And how my activities are divine. He describes that. One who does not understand the instructions of the Gita is faithless. This is almost the last part of the chapter. And is to be considered to be misusing the fragmental independence awarded to him by the Lord. Means you're in a human form of life and you don't want to understand your connection to Krishna. This is the only extra special thing given to a human being. When we misuse that, what happens?
the Lord gets
Taken away from you. You're sent back to an animal life. Right? It's like suppose if your child has the key to your cupboard, or he knows where it is kept and he misuses it. Taking out the money, taking out whatever is there inside. What will you do?
not given. Punish him.
Stop him or just hide the key. So that transcendental knowledge, that access to transcendental knowledge can be taken away and you will be dragged to animal life. Like in animal life, they don't have access. Correct? So misusing such person, he will not be awarded to him by the Lord. In spite of such instructions, one who does not understand the real nature of the Lord as eternal, blissful, all-knowing personality of Godhead is certainly fool number 1. Again, it's Prabhupada's favorite word. Ignorance can be removed by gradual acceptance of principles of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is awakened by different types of sacrifices to the demigods. All those 10 are given here. Sacrifice to Brahman, sacrifice in celibacy, in household life, in controlling the senses, in practicing mystic yoga, penance, in foregoing material possessions, in studying the Vedas, and in partaking of the social institution called Varnashram Dharma. Means if you simply act like a perfect brahmachari, perfect grihastha, perfect vanaprastha, and sannyas, you easily go back to Godhead, following that pattern. All of these are known as sacrifice. And all of them are based on regulated action. Means you're enjoying, but there's a certain boundary. A certain boundary. You will be enjoying in that boundary. If you go out of the boundary, it's bad for you. Like when you tell the child, you play as here as much as you want, but you don't go out of the gate. If he does, there are speeding vehicles, there are so many strangers. It's for the good of the child. You're giving him freedom within a boundary. All of these known are sacrifice. One who seeks that objective, but within all these activities, the important factor is self-realization. वो सब sacrifice करने का goal is self-realization. One who seeks that objective is the real student of Bhagavad Gita. But one who doubts the authority of Krishna falls back. One is therefore advised to study Bhagavad Gita or any other scripture under a bona fide spiritual master with service and surrender. This is that last sacrifice, 4.34. A bona fide spiritual master is in the disciplic succession from time eternal, and he does not deviate at all from the instructions of the Supreme Lord, as they were imparted millions of years ago to the Sun God, from whom the instructions of Bhagavad Gita have come down to the earthly kingdom. So here he is giving the history of Bhagavad Gita and the qualification of Guru. He has to be in an eternal disciplic succession. What's an eternal disciplic succession? Starting from Krishna. Like in Bhagavad Gita, this little bit is left. I'll read it and we'll go to the disciplic succession. What it means. What does eternal disciplic succession mean? One should therefore follow the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is expressed in the Gita itself, and beware of self-interested people after personal personal aggrandizement who deviate others from the actual path. The Lord is definitely the Supreme Person and His activities are transcendental. One who understands this is a liberated person from the very beginning of his study of Bhagavad Gita. Means that preliminary understanding that this Bhagavad Gita is something special. It's not just some material pages. Correct? Hari bol. Okay, can you all turn to the introduction? I think that's page number 1. Huh? Introduction, page number 1.
One, no?
At the end, at the end of introduction, if you all go to the end of the introduction, page 40, small book, there is the entire disciplic subsection. Can you all see? Those who want to take darshan and kavan, this is extra. What we are doing is extra. You can see the